Salutations, Lumineers, and welcome back to the Lorcana Rundown. I'm Silver, and today we're taking a look at one of the ways that you can make use of your cards without having to go out and buy new ones. So, obviously, there are some supply issues with set 1, namely that LGS, so local game store allocations, have been very, very small, and we're not getting a game store restock until October, which is next month. But on top of that, retail launch has been spotty for a lot of places. So your big box stores are getting frequent restocks, but it's not a lot of product, and the scalpers are getting to it before the players are. We're still seeing on Reddit pictures of people filling their carts with everything their Walmart gets or their Target gets and going directly to the checkout as soon as the place opens. So singles prices are coming down, which is good. People are finally starting to get to a place where they can build the decks they want for their Lorcana leagues. But on the whole, it's still hard to find a good way to really get yourself and your friends engaged and stay engaged with the game. So that is where the draft cube comes in. For anybody not familiar with the term from other games, namely Magic the Gathering, which is where I first encountered the draft cube, a cube is a set of cards that you put together. It's a set of cards that you put together. You specially curate it to make sure that you have all of the interactions and flavors of your draft that you want. So traditionally, draft is a format where you have a pod of 6 to 8 players. You have a booster box, and each player gets, in Lorcana, 4 packs out of that box. The packs are opened one at a time and circulated through the group as you pick one card at a time, then pass the pack. Obviously, without a regular supply of booster packs, it's hard to do a draft, and the draft format in Lorcana is especially fun, because deck building doesn't restrict you to 2 colors. In Lorcana Draft, you can use anything you pull. So if you pull a pile of every color, you can play every color in your deck as long as it is at least 40 cards. You can play as many copies of a card as you pull. So if you are lucky and you pull 6 Ursulas, you can play 6 Ursulas. If you pull 4 Elsas, you can play all 4 Elsas. But it's, as I've said, really hard to recreate that experience when you don't have access to boosters. So for a cube draft, what you do is you make a preset group of cards that has enough cards in it for you to do a draft. So in Lorcana, that comes out to 384 cards. That's 4 packs of 12 cards for 8 people. Excuse me. Now, there are 6 colors in Lorcana. You want to make sure you have a roughly even spread. Now, I know booster packs aren't going to necessarily be the proper ratio of colors. You're not going to get 2 of each color in a 12-card booster pack. So you don't have to stick hard and fast to the ratios, but you want to have roughly 64 of each color so that it comes out as a balance. Though, if you really like Ruby, you can get 384 Ruby cards, put them in the thing, and have just a blood red draft. That might be interesting. Going from there, you want to look at your breakdown of inkable cards versus uninkable cards, because nobody wants to draft a pile of uninkable cards that they just can't use. So, current deck building, the general rule of thumb is no more than 12 uninkable cards unless you're running Sapphire. So that's roughly 1/5 of a 60-card deck. So about 1/5 of your cards in your draft pool can be uninkable. So that comes out to fewer than 77 cards total. You can play with that number a little bit, tweak it up, tweak it down, however you like. This is your cube, and cubes are really a place where you can express some creativity just because it's your choice what your players get access to. Do what you think is going to be the most fun. So that's 384 cards, roughly 64 of each color, and fewer than 77 uninkable cards. In order to get that kind of pile, in order to draft, you need at minimum 6.4 starter decks, or 6 starter decks with their accompanying boosters. You can crack those apart, shuffle in the booster packs, and you've actually got a ready-to-go cube, more or less. You want to make sure that you have a mix of items, actions, and characters, and the starter decks will give you that. The ratios won't be 100%, but right now they're the easiest product to get a hold of. So if you and your friends are wanting to try draft, go get your six starter decks, shuffle them together, and have some fun. So looking at, I already got some of the sorting done for our cube. So I broke everything down by colors. We've got amber, amethyst, emerald, ruby, sapphire, and steel. And these are essentially just made from not from boosters. These are essentially made from the starter decks. So obviously I only got one of the emerald ruby starters, and I play an emerald deck, so I don't have a lot of emerald cards. We're actually going to have to use almost all of these cards if we want a balanced cube. So what you're going to do, we'll start with ruby, because I think ruby shows up really well on camera, is you're going to want to split your characters out. So it is Abu through, not Sergeant Tibbs, Stitch, Tigger, yeah, Tigger. So we're going to go Abu through Tigger, and then our actions, we've got Be Prepared through Tangle, and then our items are going to be Poisoned Apple through Sword of Truth. If you haven't already noticed, on your Lorcana cards, down here at the bottom, can you see that? I highly doubt you can see that. But down here at the bottom, it'll tell you if it's card number 128 out of 204 for Be Prepared. Those are all in numerical order. The way that Ravensburger set this up, each color is already alphabetized and broken down by characters, actions, and items. So it makes it really easy when you're sorting your collection or searching your collection to find what you need. You don't necessarily have to know that your actions start at card 128 in Ruby, but you know that if you get to Tigger, the next thing is probably going to be an action, because alphabet. I'm hoping they continue that trend in set 2. But now that we've got our cards split up by actions and items, we can look more closely at what our ratios should be of each card. You want roughly 20 to 25% of your cards to be non-characters. So that's actions or items. You can shift that percentage a little bit if you want to go as high as 30, just to give your deck some variety. I cracked a couple boosters and looked at the ratios. It's anywhere between 20 to 30% in your average booster of characters and non-characters. In this cube, it comes out to anywhere between 77 and 128, depending on where you go with that ratio. You don't want to worry about rarity. I know in a booster pack, you've got a set number of slots that are common, uncommon, and then you've got your 2 rare, super rare slots and your foil. That doesn't matter as much for a cube draft, just because you're trying to get a pile of cards together that you and your friends can play with. And if you're doing especially the starter deck cube idea, it's going to primarily be what's called a pauper format. Or I've actually seen it called Lorcana. I kind of like that. I forget who it was on Dreamborn.inc that listed their deck as a Lorcana deck, but I appreciate you and I love that turn of phrase, so I will use it. But pauper decks, Lorcana decks, anything like that, typically uses only commons or only commons and uncommons. I have a few rares mixed in here because I don't have my rares bindered unless they're foil. Probably should, but I don't. So for instance, I've got the Be Prepareds in here. There are probably a few Lilos kicking around, actually, but we'll see. It can add a little bit of extra power, but for the most part, right now we're looking at just pauper style. So for our actions, you figure we want, what did I say, up to 128 of these for the whole pile. And we've only got right here 4 Ruby items entirely. So these are all pretty fun cards in draft, especially Shield of Virtue. I had a lot of fun with that when I did Sealed deck with Andrew. So we're going to include all 4 of these. So we'll set those off to the side. Now we're going to look at our actions. So we've got Be Prepared, Cut to the Chase, Dragonfire. I have a lot of copies of Dragonfire. Fan the Flames. He's got a sword. And then there. So probably To Be Prepared is the most I would want to go in a cube, just because you're not going to see a lot of that in a standard draft. So we'll include both of those. The Cut to the Chases, chosen character gets rushed. Sure, I've only got one of those. Dragonfire, it's an uninkable, so you want to watch out for that. And it's also removal. Removal is strong in sealed formats, but you don't want it to be too strong. It's an uncommon. We'll throw two of those in there. And then Fan the Flames, that's a solid one. It's another uncommon, but it's good defensive. We'll throw 3 of those in there. Let's throw another Dragonfire in. Tangle, each opponent loses a lure. It is inkable, it is common. We can throw 4 copies in there. Why not? Because we're looking at 384 cards total. That's a good amount of cards. He's got a sword. So he's got a sword, chosen character gets +2 power this turn. For me, this is a card that I'm not happy to see in a pack, but you don't want every pick to be a bomb. And also, it is 1 cost. It is inkable, so we'll throw that in there. So there's our pile of actions and items. We'll put these off to the side. And then we'll look at our characters. So I find it easiest to break down my piles of each character and see how many I want to include. We've got Captain, Donald. Normally when I do this, I have 2 playmats set up side by side, and then I have a row of sorting cups above. Unfortunately, the sorting station cast shadows on this set, so we weren't able to bring that with us today. Plus, I forgot it. I love LeFou in Sealed. Oh, he's so good. I'm leaving him in there specifically because he's so fun in Sealed. Fan the Flames is a great effect, and having it on LeFou is just... He's a 2/2, he quests for 1. He's a 2/2, so you know you're going to get some use out of him. And he's got Fan the Flames. I love him in Sealed. Can't say enough about that. Mr. Maui, Minnie Mouse, Moana. I know, I shouldn't sing. And we've got Scar. We'll put Scar. I'm going to have to move that up there. Sergeant Tibbs, Stitch. And Tigga is a wonderful thing. These are all out of order. I apologize. So we'll do our commons first. Definitely take our 3-boo. He's solid. He's a 3/2 who quests for 2. We'll take all 3 of our Aladdins because we're going to want, we don't have the big Aladdin in here to shift onto, but if we did, we'd want at least 3 of those to have, hopefully, somebody being able to get that synergy. Captain, we'll do 2 of you. Those over there. We'll do both of our Donalds. Definitely put in one of the Stitches. So you figure 4 packs per player. 4 times 8 is 32. In 32, you're going to have roughly 32 to 64 rares. So we could just keep all of my rares in here and it would still be perfectly balanced. We'll leave him in there. Put in Stitch. Sergeant Tibbs is a great 1-drop. So we'll put you there. He's got a sword. That's my actions pile. Elsa, she's another common. She's a little bit pricey, but throw her in because she's inkable. Gaston, we'll do all of our copies of him. Evasives are strong in Sealed. You want to make sure you have some of those, not too many of those, but we're also going to need to make sure that we have our 64 of this color, so throw that in. He is common. Throw in LeFou. Throw in a Maui. This one is the rare Scar, so he's shift 6. Yeah, we'll include him in some common Scars. Why not? Minnie, yeah, you're common. Tigger, we'll throw you in. Moana, I hate this card. I understand it's great lore flavor. Like, in terms of the story, I understand how important it is that Moana banishes chosen creature named Taka. But she costs 5. She's a 2/6. She quests for 2 lore. Her effect is 99% of the time useless. So I want to like this card. I want to run Moana. I love that movie, but she's just not that great. Not every card, like I said, not every card has to be a bomb. But we'll throw... He's uninkable, so we'll throw 3 of those in. Pongo, we'll definitely put my boy Pongo in there. And put the Rapunzels in. So right now we've got 77 cards in our pile. That's more than what we wanted. That's 13 over our 64. We are going to be running short on Emerald, but we could go back through this if we want, cut some of the uninkables, because we've got quite a few of those in here. So we can cut out, say, where did they go? We'll cut out one of the... We liked our ratio of that. So we'll cut out 2 of the Peter Pan. Oh, he's common. Cut out 1 of him. Cut out a Moana. Keep the Scar. And that's all that really building a cube is it's going back through, it's figuring out exactly what kind of an experience you want to offer your players based on what cards you have and going from there. So what you would do from here, we'll just pretend for a moment that these are our respective piles for Sapphire and Sapphire. We're going to pretend that these are our curated piles of Ruby and Emerald. What you would do to actually create your cube or get it ready to be played is you're just going to shuffle them straight together. So make your piles, shuffle them in, and then when you're ready to play your cube, you're just going to shuffle the entire pile together, split them down into packs of 12, and start passing them. I recommend you sleeve your cube just to protect the cards. You want to make sure you use the same color sleeve in each, so you're not constantly having to pull cards in and out of sleeves, reduce the corner wear, reduce the edge wear. We want to keep these nice just because they're trading cards. We're going to be hopefully using those for years to come. Nobody wants to have to keep buying things because they're getting beaten and battered in play. So shuffle, 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 shuffle. We had this all broken apart, so we want to make sure we get a good shuffle here. And we'll call that good for our small pile here. Assuming this was our shuffled cube entirely, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That would be booster pack 1. This will be booster pack 2. So from there, it will be down to making your selection. Pack 1 is kind of a not great pack. Obviously, this particular one is heavy on actions just because of the part of the pile I took it out of. It's not well shuffled. But you would take your pack, pick your card. In this case, I'm going to take Fan the Flames because I love that card. And then the rest of the pack gets passed. You don't, in draft, generally spread out the cards, but I wanted to show you how it looks when you get it. So we would pass it to the left, take our next pack, repeat the process. There are some products out there on the market that make protecting your cube and preparing your cube a lot easier. Dragon Shield makes something called the Cube Shell. I believe it's called Cube Shell. It's booster pack sized deck boxes. So it'll hold 18, 15 sleeved cards. You can just put your cards right in there. And then that gives you the extra feel of opening a pack, checking it out, passing it. That's all there really is to it. It's not a complex process, but you can, like I said, go really deep down into curating this. For some people, building a draft cube is like cultivating a bonsai. There are, in Magic the Gathering, people who have spent years refining and fine-tuning their cubes to get the perfect draft experience from throughout Magic's history. Right now, we only have one set to work with, so we don't quite have the options to do that in Lorcana, but it's going to be fun to see how we can change these up over the years. If you have time to try out a cube for yourself, drop me a comment, hit me up on Twitter, let me know how it went for you. Maybe give me your list so I can see how that's going to stack up. Let's see how everyone else wants to curate their experience. But that is all for today. Thank you very much for joining me on this weekend. My name is Silver, and this is the Lorcana Rundown. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Have a good one, folks.